Brilliance Audio presents Dark Waters by Lee Vyborny and Don Davis, performed by Braden Wright. Our nuclear attack submarine, the USS Sargo, was 2 weeks out of Pearl Harbor, gliding easily at 17 knots some 400 feet beneath the surface of the Pacific Ocean and headed for the east coast of Russia. The white numbers on our sail had been painted dark gray to match the rest of the ship and prevent identification. The radio room was stuffed with new electronics, and we had taken aboard 3 mysterious communications technicians, ghostly figures who rarely left their equipment and spoke only to the captain. Once a day we rose to periscope depth to receive any radio messages, then immediately dove to again hide our transit in deep water. It was 1964. The world was awash in the Cold War, and after preparing the ship as if she were going into combat, we were on our way to do some serious snooping in the Tartar Straits. The Cuban Missile Crisis, only 2 years earlier, was still fresh in everyone's memory, and in the short span of time since, President John Kennedy had been assassinated, Nikita Khrushchev had been overthrown as the Soviet premier, and British Prime Minister Harold Macmillan was driven from office by a scandal. America was trying to catch up with the Soviet Union in the space race. Russian reconnaissance planes were flying over Alaska. East-west tension was tight along the Berlin Wall. The Soviet Navy was growing at an alarming rate, and American armed forces were being drawn into Vietnam. The repercussions of such geopolitical events reached even to the depths of the Pacific, where I was serving aboard the Sargo, a submarine that had already sunk once. 4 years earlier, while tied up dockside at Pearl Harbor, a pressure hose carrying pure oxygen into the ship ruptured and an intense fire broke out. Flames shot 100 feet into the air, and the nightmare scenario of fire aboard a nuclear-powered submarine became a reality. As the inferno roared, and with one sailor already dead, the captain made the drastic decision to flood his own ship and put the stern of the crippled ship on the floor of the harbor with a deck hatch left open. The aft compartment filled with water and kept the raging fire from reaching the ship's nuclear reactor. The Sargo was later hauled up by a huge crane, refurbished for 3 months, and returned to active duty. Now she was my home, and my bunk during this 4-month mission was a vinyl mattress right beside the warhead of a large torpedo. My duty station was at the plotting table in the control room, noting the position of any ships or other contacts. It was an enviable job. Although I was one of the most junior people aboard, I was in the operational heart of the Sargo, just a step away from the dive station and the periscope stand. I knew where we were and what we were doing. You lose track of the hours in a submarine, for there are no windows, and no matter where your ship may be, the clock is set at Zulu, the time on the prime meridian, the imaginary line of longitude that passes through Greenwich, England. So days and nights cease to have meaning to a submariner, for there is no sunrise or sunset, no stars or moon, just the ship's bells to signal the time for meals, working, and sleeping. After 2 weeks at sea, we crossed the international date line deep in the central Pacific, hundreds of miles from anywhere, far from friend and enemy alike, and constantly challenged by the tedium of routine tasks. But we stayed on our toes because absolutely nothing is taken for granted aboard a sub. After several hours on duty one quiet day with no contacts to plot, I sat listening to the machine in which we lived. There is a continual din inside any ship underway, the whine of the turbines and reduction gears, the whoosh of air conditioning, the squeal of hydraulic fluid moving through pipes and valves, the beeps of electronic devices, the straining shakes and shudders as turning screws push the ship through the water. Everyone feels the comforting rhythm that gives a sense that all is well and instantly recognizes any change. I watched the fathometer send out periodic pulses that returned many seconds later and showed the ocean bottom was 18,000 feet, more than 3 miles below us. It made me wonder what it would be like to fall that far, a thought I quickly pushed aside.